There are so many damn grape varieties out there, it is ridiculous. Like seriously, there's over like 800 to 1,000 grape varieties alone in Italy. Trying to memorize those all, trying to learn those all, that's next to impossible. I literally have stacks and stacks of books that are just all different grape varieties throughout the world. Vino Italiano, hey, look at this thing. Alto Adige, Veneto, Friuli. This is just Italy. This is just Italy. Grand Cru, I mean, this is all about Burgundy. Only 2 grapes grow there. Well, really, but Chardonnay and Pinot. Look at this. Puligny, Montrachet, Meursault, Gevrey Chambertin, Romanée-Conti. Actually, I went there. It's crazy. Wine region, University Wine Course, Germany. It's ridiculous. This is not going to be a master course on grape varieties. I'm just going to talk a little bit on high level about different grape varieties, white and red, a couple different regions, and how it relates to winemaking in the Walla Walla Valley. Let's get started. Starting out simple, sometimes people have a hard time understanding that Cabernet is a grape. Merlot is a type of grape. Chardonnay is a type of grape. Syrah is a type of grape. So I just wanted to start right there. Those are all different grapes. They just have those names because they originated in Europe. And a lot of them have French names like Chardonnay and Merlot, or Italian names like Sangiovese or Nebbiolo, or German names like Sylvaner, Portuguese name like Touriga Nacional, Spanish names like Tempranillo. So those grapes have those names just because that's where they originated. They originated in these areas, and then the people there called them certain things like Cabernet or Merlot or Sangiovese. And then when we brought those grapes over here, we would bring cuttings over here to America, we planted them, and it's still the same grape, we just kept the same name. My analogy for this is almost think of like a Honeycrisp apple tree. So a Honeycrisp apple originated here in America. We made them here. So if we were to take that tree and bring it to Australia, New Zealand, or France or Italy and plant it, it would still probably hold that name as a Honeycrisp apple. That's kind of a good way of thinking about, bringing those plantings from Europe over here to America, and then them keeping those same names. And speaking of apples, I really like apples as an analogy when relating to grape varieties because there's tons of varieties of apples too. If you walk in the grocery store, think about it. There's the Fuji apple, Honeycrisp, like I was just talking about, Granny Smith, Red Delicious, Yellow Delicious, Golden Delicious, and Red Delicious apples are not delicious, by the way. There's all these different types of apples. All of them are kind of different colors. They have different thinness and thicknesses of skins. It's very similar to grapes. The other major one is tomatoes. Think about all the different tomatoes in the grocery store too. Romo tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, you got tomatoes on the vine, you got those heirloom tomatoes, you just got basic tomatoes. So yeah, I always like tomatoes and apples as an analogy because when you think about it, it's very similar to grapes too. We have all these grapes that we brought over from Europe, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc. They all kind of have those different names, but they all have different characteristics too. Different colors of skins, different thickness and thinness of skins, different sugar levels, different flavor profiles overall. So they have a lot in common when you think about it from that standpoint. A lot of times when we talk about wine grapes, we usually talk about where they're from in terms of like, oh, this is a Bordeaux grape, or this is a Burgundy grape, or this is, Central Italy. We kind of talk in those terms, and we kind of look at how they grow well there, and then try to match it up over here and how they grow over here. So I'm just gonna hit 2 kind of main areas that I think Walla Walla does a really good job with, and that is Bordeaux grapes and Rhone grapes. And I'm just gonna talk about red grapes here. I'm not gonna dive into white grapes. That might be, saved for a later video. But white grapes are actually kind of cool because a lot of people don't know this, but white grapes are actually a mutation of a red grape. All grapes kind of started out red from genetic analysis, and at some point along the way, there was a mutation during reproduction, and the grape changed colors. It went from red to that white color. Just a freak mutation, and now we have it, we can cultivate it and make great wine from it. Because at the center of every single wine grape is a seed, and that seed is the offspring of the plant. Now, if you plant that seed, you're not gonna get the plant that it came from, right? The mother plant. It's not gonna be, Sauvignon Blanc or Cabernet. It's gonna be something totally different. Again, just kind of like having kids. The kids aren't gonna be the exact same thing as the parents. There's gonna be offspring, and it's gonna be slightly different. But yeah, you could take a wine grape and take the seed out and plant it, and a plant would grow. It'd be a different grapevine, but it wouldn't be, its parent grape would be something totally different. So in winemaking, we really like the grapes that we have. We just keep reproducing those. The main way you do this is just by taking cuttings. Grapevines are really easy to propagate. So you just take a cutting and cut it down, stick it in the dirt, it'll sprout roots, and there you are. You got Cabernet again, or you got Syrah again. And then it grows up and matures from there. So diving into the 5, really 6 red grapes of Bordeaux. They are Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Malbec, and kind of this weird caveat, Carmenere. And we do really well with all those Bordeaux varieties. I can think of vineyards throughout the Walla Walla Valley where all of those grow, and they all grow well. You know, Carmenere is getting a foothold. A lot of people love single varietal Petit Verdot that a lot of places make here. The Merlot, I think Merlot down in the rocks does a great job. Cabernet at Seven Hills, or kind of up in the foothills. I think that's a stellar spot for some Cabernet. Cabernet Franc is killer down the rocks. So within the Walla Walla Valley, we have so many different areas where we can pick and choose and plant some of those phenomenal Bordeaux grapes, get them ripe, and make some terrific wine from them. See, Carmenere, they thought for a long time in Bordeaux was Merlot, when it really wasn't. It was Carmenere, totally different grape variety, which is so hard for me to believe because they're so different, especially in the cellar. I mean, Carmenere just has this tons of herbaceousness and this green pepper. It's like a thing of nachos. But anyways, yeah, in Bordeaux, they confused Carmenere for Merlot. So anyways, they kind of grandfathered that grape in there, even though they thought it was Merlot. So all those European grapes belong to one species of grape varieties called Vitis vinifera. That's the grape species that originated in Europe. Now there were grapes growing, you know, here in America too. A lot of those fell under the Vitis lambrusca species. A real quick story about grape varieties, Europeans coming over to America, and phylloxera. So when the European settlers came over here to America, there were grapes growing here. And they're like, oh sweet, there's grapes, let's make some wine. Just like how they had done for hundreds of years in Europe. So they made wine. Sadly, they just didn't like it. So they're like, huh, that's weird. Maybe these are different grapes than the grapes back home. So they brought some grapes from home over here to, you know, the United States, planted them, and they died. And they're like, what the hell? Why are these grapes dying over here? Maybe it's something with the soil back over in Europe. Maybe that's the difference. Then they brought the American grapes over to Europe. They're like, well, let's plant them over there and see if they make good wine over there. When they did that, it was a disaster because what they brought with that American grape was also a little pest, a little root louse called phylloxera. And phylloxera feeds on roots, grapevine roots. So it got into Europe and just devastated almost all of the European vineyards because those grapevines hadn't evolved with this pest, and they were just totally susceptible. They just got wiped out. So the Europeans had no idea what was going on. They're like, what in the hell is going on? All of our grapevines are dying. Well, it finally was figured out that there was this new pest that they had brought over from America to Europe. So the answer was grafting the European trunk and top, let's just say the top of the plant, with the American rootstock, because this pest ate the roots and the American roots had evolved with it. They kind of put out this sap so the bug can't really eat it. And then they figured out that they could graft the two plants together. So a lot of Europe and a lot of America, a lot of, you know, grapevines throughout the world are what we would say grafted. They're not on their own roots. They are on American rootstock. Again, just because that American rootstock evolved with that pest, and it's no big deal. It doesn't bother it. And you can take the top part of the plant, cut it off, graft it with the American roots, and you got a good plant. So that's how a lot of vineyards are planted throughout the world. And not all vineyards are this way. There's parts of Walla Walla that we're still on our own rootstock because we have very sandy soils here. We have very cold winters here. We have other factors that kind of help us where it kind of keeps phylloxera at bay. Knock on wood. The other area I wanted to talk about was the Rhone Valley in France. The Rhone Valley kind of mirrors a lot of Walla Walla climate as well. And so that's why we do really well with Syrah. Syrah probably being the biggest one. Grenache, Mourvedre. There's a bunch of Rhone grapes. And there's more and more trial, more and more experimentation going on in the Walla Walla Valley because we have a very similar climate to the Rhone Valley. And I made a whole nother video on the rocks AVA. That is very, very similar to Châteauneuf-du-Pape in southern Rhone. So check out that video. That kind of gives a good breakdown of the rocks AVA and how it mirrors a lot of the climate of Chateauneuf. And that's why, again, that Syrah does really well down there. Grenache does really well down there. Mourvèdre does really well down there because the climate and the growing conditions are very, very similar. So again, I didn't want to dive too much into grape varieties. I just want to kind of give a high level overview of two regions that work well with the Loire Valley, Bordeaux and Rhone, and then just kind of talk about grape varieties, you know, from a scientific perspective and where they come from and how they got here. So with that, let's dive into our moon fact of the day. So this might be one of my favorite moon facts because I was trying to think of a new one and I was thinking, how many full moons would it take to equal the brightness of the sun? And the answer I got was insane. So I have to give credit to space.com, who kind of, I just Googled it and it popped up, and they had already done all the math, done all the work, you know, did all the hard work, the leg work, so I didn't have to do any of this. But it's absolutely insane. So I'm gonna have to read these numbers. Okay, so there would have to be 398,110 full moons in the sky to equal the brightness of the sun. That's insane. Almost 400,000 full moons to equal the brightness of the sun. Because there'll be sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and there'll be a full moon and you kind of look outside, you're like, oh wow, it's pretty bright out there. You can kind of see everything, but that is not even scratching the surface. You would need, you need 398,000 more of those to equal the brightness of the sun, you know, during the daytime. And you wanna know the really messed up thing? The really messed up thing is there isn't even enough area in the sky to fit that many full moons. Like, it's not even physically possible. I'm just gonna read this from space.com. The sky is 360 degrees around, obviously, including the half that we can't see below the horizon. So there are 41,200 square degrees in the sky. The moon measures only half a degree across, which gives it an area of 0.2 square degrees. I guess that makes sense. So you could fill up the entire sky, including the half that lies below our feet, with only 206,000 full moons. And you would still be like 191,000 short to match the brightness of the sun. That's just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. So a lot of numbers in there, I'm just gonna round it. Basically you need 400,000 full moons in the sky to equal the brightness of the sun. And in the sky, you can only fit like 200,000. So it's not even possible. So anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Hope you enjoyed this video on grape varieties. I might do some a little bit more in depth on specific grape varieties, like just kind of talking about Syrah, just talking about Cabernet. But again, this video is just meant to be a high level overview of grape varieties as a general topic. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to get in touch with me. There's always kind of 3 ways to do that. The comment field below, there's a little button over here where you can click and that sends a message to us, or drop us an email. The email addresses are down in the footer. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy all the videos. I got a bunch of them around, so click around. It's kind of a nice perk for being one of our wine club members. So thanks so much for being a wine club member. Thanks so much for checking out this video. And that's gonna do it for me. Keep drinking wine and keep looking up. Thanks so much. Sounding names because they didn't originate Fuji apple, Granny Smith apple, Yellow Delish, you know. Whoa. I think I caught that on camera.